Good morning, boys and girls. It's Auntie Janet, and I'm excited to be back with you today to share with you chapter 2 of our story called No Darkness at All. We started last week with our friend Hamid and his little sister Kinza, who was blind. And if you remember, this is where we left the story last week. Kinza had been sent to beg with the old beggar in town, but the new plan was the old stepfather told Hamid's mother and stepmother that he had a plan. Instead of caring for Kinza and keeping her here at home, he was going to sell her to the old beggar and take her away. Well, Hamid and his mom knew that this was not going to be a plan that they would be agreeable to, and they had to think of another plan to save Kinza. After hearing his stepfather's plan, Hamid lay on his little bed on the floor, his mattress, and he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking, how can I save my sister? How can I save her? He heard his mom over in the corner saying, oh, my little daughter, and he knew that his mom, again, was trying to think of a plan to save Kinza. Hamid finally fell asleep. He didn't sleep well, and he dreamt a lot about his little sister, but he finally fell asleep until he was rudely awakened by a kick, and his stepfather said, wake up, you lazy boy. Get up and go care for the goats. Hamid jumped up. He quickly rubbed his hair to make it look better, splashed water on his face, and came to the kitchen table to get his breakfast of coffee and bread. While he was eating, his mom was very quiet, but she kept looking at him and staring at him. And he thought, she has a special message for me. And finally she winked at him, and Hamid thought, my mom wants to speak to me in private. Soon as he finished his breakfast, he had kept a piece of his bread. He went out and found his friends who had looked after the goats yesterday and pled with him, please go look after the goats. I will be back there soon. I have a message and then I will come. His friend took the goats, and Hamid crept back to the house. He hid behind the little barn in the back of their house and waited. Soon his mother came outside and entered the little barn. Hamid looked both ways to make sure nobody could see him, and he went into the little barn with his mom. There his mom sat beside the grinding wheel where she put corn in and ground it up each day. As she sat there, Hamid said, why did you look at me like that at breakfast time? What is your message? Have you thought of a way to save Kinza? Hamid's mom looked at him. She saw this 11-year-old boy, a skinny little boy, but she knew he was strong and tough. And she looked straight at him and said, Hamid, you will save Kinza. Me? How can I save Kinza? I'm just an 11-year-old boy. I don't know what to do with a little blind girl. How can I save her? Listen to me, Hamid. And his mom took his head in her hands and said, look straight in my eyes. I have to tell you a story. Hamid, when you were just a little baby, only a few months old, your father and I had been over at one market to try and sell some of your father's goods. Then your father took me to a tomb where we had to pray to the saints. When we were finished praying, your father said, we must go to another village. It's 20 miles away, but I've heard that their market is good and maybe we can earn more money by selling things there. So Hamid, you were tied on my back. We walked and walked and walked for 20 miles, and my feet were cut and sore, and you were fussy. And the closer we got to the new village, the more you cried and cried. When we finally had finished the 20 miles and arrived at the village, I took you off my back and sat there by the fountain in the middle of the village. You were burning up with fever, Hamid. I tried to cool you off by putting water on you, but you cried and cried. Your father found a little place for us to sleep outside in the streets while he went to check the market. But the next morning, after you were sick all night, you still were burning with fever. The flies were coming, and I thought you were going to die, Hamid. But then a lady came to me, and she heard you crying, and she said, is your baby sick? And I said, yes, he's so hot. He's very sick. She said, come, I can help you. I will take you to a place where you can get help for your baby. And Hamid, I told her, no, I can't. I'm too poor. I have no money for medicine. I can't go for help. And the lady said to me, no, come. There is a nurse. She is here from England, and she will help you. A nurse from England? People from England are rich. They would have big houses. They don't care about a poor person like me. But the lady assured me, come, this lady will help anyone. She says she does it because she loves a man named Jesus. I knew you were sick, Hamid, so I took you and followed this lady, and we went to the house of this English nurse. And sure enough, just like she said, the English nurse let us in, and she agreed to see you. I remember sitting there, and she looked after you so carefully and so lovingly, Hamid. And when she left the room to go get medicine for your fever, I remember looking up on the wall, and there was this picture. It's a picture of a man with a very kind face, and around him were children. And the children looked as though they loved this man. I asked the nurse when she came back, who is this man? Why is he holding children? The children look as though they love him. And the nurse told me, this man is Jesus. Jesus is the Son of God. He left heaven to come to earth. He lived a perfect life. He loved the children and told them to come to him. He loved all people, and he died to save people so that we could have eternal life. Hamid, I will never forget that picture. I'm not sure who this Jesus man is, but he sounded like a wonderful, loving person. All I know is that English nurse looked after you. She gave me medicine, and because of her, you are alive today. Hamid, I want you to take Kinza to this lady's house. To the lady's house? But mother, you said it's so far away. Yes, Hamid, her house is far away. In fact, the journey will take you 7 days. And you will have to travel at night so that people don't see you and try to bring you back. But mother, I'm afraid of the dark. I cannot go. You must go. Hamid, if you do not go and take Kinza, she will be sold to the beggar and we will never see her again. And maybe she will even die. Hamid looked at his mom. He knew he loved his sister and he loved his mother dearly. Okay, I will go. The plan is tonight, I will leave. Now quickly, go look after the goats. We do not want your stepfather and the stepmother to know that you have been talking to me. Go. Hamid left. He went and looked after the goats all day. All day long he kept thinking, I must go over the mountains, down by the river, follow the river to the village, and then I must find the English nurse's house. For 7 nights I must do this. That night he came home, he ate supper, he said nothing about the plan. He went to bed as per usual, and his mom went to bed, his stepfather and stepmother went to bed, and when everybody was finally sleeping, Hamid got up from his mattress. He climbed out quietly through the door, and the plan was to meet his mom in the yard. She would bring Kinza out as well. Everything was going fine. His stepmother didn't hear anything until he got out in the yard, and just then he heard a rattle. It was the dog. No, don't bark. If you bark, they'll know. He went over quickly and rubbed his dog and said, shh, it's me, it's Hamid. The dog just rubbed up against Hamid and didn't say or bark or do anything. Whew, Hamid thought. Well, a couple of minutes later, his mother came out the door. She had Kinza in her arms, and there she tied Kinza to Hamid's back with a blanket, and then she gave Hamid 2 loaves of bread for food for the journey. She cried and kissed Hamid and said, Hamid, I trust you. I know you will look after your sister. Go. May the saints be with you. She didn't know about God. She didn't know about Jesus. All she thought was that the saints protected you. Hamid wished he did know about God because he was afraid of the darkness, but he knew he must go. It was his job to save his sister. So he promised his mom, I will go. He left and he walked, and he started to walk and walk and walk. He was scared at first. Every little noise he would jump. He was afraid of the dark. But he walked all night long through the bushes, through the forest, and he knew he had to head towards his first mountain, and he walked and walked. He soon found the river and walked all night long. Finally, early in the morning, as the sun came up, he stopped because Kinza had woken from, she had slept all night on his back, but she had woken and she was hungry. So he took her down by the river, he took her off his back, he fed her some bread and reached down and cupped some water in his hands and gave her something to drink. And then he tried to fix her hair up a little bit. And he thought, oh, I'm so exhausted. I would like to sleep. But no, I must keep walking. Mother said this journey would take 7 days. So he decided to keep walking. He walked and he walked another couple of hours. But by mid-morning, Hamid was exhausted. He couldn't walk another step. He came to a little wheat field. And he didn't realize that this field was close to a village, but he came to a little wheat field and he thought, I know would be a good place to have a nap because all the wheat is up high and nobody will see me. I'll just lay down for a few minutes, catch a little bit of a nap, and then we'll continue on. He took Kinza and left her there by his legs so that he would know that she was beside him, and he fell fast asleep. Kinza had a nap for just a few minutes. But you remember, Kinza had slept all night long. She wasn't tired anymore. So she woke up. Hamid was sleeping soundly. And when she woke up, she heard voices. Voices of people talking because the village was close by. And little Kinza thought, oh, maybe it is my mother. So she started to crawl, listening and wondering, is this my mama? And she crawled through the wheat, listening for the voices, crawling, saying, Mama, Mama, Mama. She crawled and she crawled till she went through the wheat field and she came out on the other side and there was the village. There was people there. She couldn't see them because she was blind, but she thought maybe her mama was there. She went into the village and she kept calling Mama, Mama. Well, you can imagine the people in the village. Who is this baby? Why is she here? Why is she all alone? And then they realized she couldn't see. And there was great excitement in the village. Who could she be? And why was she here? The people were kind to her and gave her something to eat and a place to stay. Hamid slept all day long, and suddenly at the end of the day, he woke up. Kinza, let's go. When he looked around him, Kinza was gone. Where was she? Oh no, I've slept too long. Where is my sister? He was in a panic. He started to call, Kinza, Kinza. He looked through the wheat field. He couldn't find her. But he quickly went through. He knew he had to be quiet. When he got to the other side of the wheat field, he saw the village as well. And there, across the street, was Kinza, with people all around her. Oh no, thought Hamid, I must stay hidden. But when it's nighttime, I will watch and see what home she goes in, and then I will rescue my sister. He sat, he waited, he waited. He saw the house where they took Kinza. And when it was dark, Hamid went. He went into the house quietly. Nobody heard him. And there was little Kinza sleeping on a mat on the floor. These people had been kind to her. She was sleeping. And quietly, he picked her up. She started to start, shh, Kinza, it's Hamid, your brother. She didn't say anything because she knew it was her brother. He picked her up and took her. And he put her back on his back and began to walk again. Whew, that was a close call. I must be more careful in the future. He walked and he walked. Another day, another night. He tried to sleep a little bit in the day, but he knew he couldn't risk Kinza going away again. And for 5 days, back and forth, walking all night, trying to rest a little bit in the day, and nobody had caught him. He knew he had to be careful because people from his village would be coming to look for him. On day number 5, he was walking along and he decided to walk on the street for a while when suddenly he saw 2 men on horses coming along. And one of the men called, "Hey! Is that Hamid? That is Hamid. Look, he has Kinza on his back." It was 2 policemen from his village who had been going along the road on their horses to go travel to another village. They saw Hamid and they recognized him. "Come back here. We heard you ran away. Your parents are looking for you. You must come back." And the man on the horse started to chase after Hamid. Hamid quickly jumped down into the bushes. It scared the horse, and the horse lifted its legs and let out a huge whinny. And the men started to chase him, but the bushes that Hamid had jumped down into were full of thorns and thistles, and they didn't want their horses to get cut up. Hamid's legs were cut and bruised, but he kept running. And finally they said, "Fine, we're going to leave him. We'll tell his father that we spotted him, but we're not going through those thorns and thistles to hurt our horses." Hamid ran and ran. His heart was thumping. That was so foolish. I can't go near the road again. And so from the rest of his journey for the last 2 days, he walked only in the bushes and not on the roads. His feet and his legs were hurting him. But finally, after 7 days, he reached the village where his mom had told him the English nurse lived. And he tried to think, what was the instructions? Oh yeah, she lived on a narrow alleyway, and I must follow. He had Kins on his back. He was so tired after 7 days, but he walked down the alleyway and he noticed a bunch of young boys all going into one house. And as he got closer, he heard singing. And the boys were singing, and he thought, I wonder what's going on. What is this house and what is this singing? He crept closer, and as he got closer to the house and listened to the boys singing, he decided he would peek in the door because the door was open. Because could this be the English nurse's home? Could his journey finally be over? When he went down and peeked through the door, what should Hamid see? But on the wall was the picture. It's the picture. It's the picture my mom told me about. The picture of the man called Jesus. This must be where the English nurse lives. I have found the place. I have walked for 7 days. This is the home where my mother told me to go. Hamid had made it there. A long journey, but he had fulfilled his journey. Now that he was there, how was he going to get Kinza to the English nurse? How was he going to get help for her? And was he going to learn more about Jesus? Well, we're going to stop there for today, and I'm going to leave you hanging. What happens to Hamid? What happens to Kinza? What will be his plan? Will he find and get to speak to the English nurse? Will Kinza get the help that she needs? We're going to find out next week. But more importantly, we're going to find out if Hamid learns more about Jesus, because he needs to know more about Jesus, because Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And that's what Hamid needs. We'll see you next week.